This is Helen Thompson. Thank you for being here today. If you are already subscribed to the show, thank you so much, mums. You always are amazing. And if you are here for the first time, make sure you subscribe to the show. Google Podcasts will shortly be closing permanently. So if you are subscribed via Google, please subscribe via another platform so you don't miss out on each episode. You will find First Time Mums Chat on all the main platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, as well as now on YouTube. Today, like in every episode, I'm bringing you an amazing woman, spiritual guide and ThetaHealer, and mother of one, Emily Miotto. Emily helps mums work on themselves to release any limiting beliefs around motherhood and to connect with their inner selves, to trust their intuition and heal both themselves and the little ones. During our chat, you'll hear Emily talk about her postpartum depression journey and how understanding why she manifested it helped break the cycle. Why your little one may be hypersensitive to everything happening around them and may have trouble sleeping. Why children coming into the world today are different, and why mums need to do everything possible to support them as they grow up. If you're a new mum, or if you're about to commence your parenting journey, then you'll know that many women in our modern fast-paced world feel alone and unsupported. Many are isolated and lack support from members of their family, such as their mothers or other close feminine role models. I'm your host, Helen Thompson, and I'm a childcare educator and baby massage instructor with many years' experience working with families. I started the First Time Mums Chat podcast in 2021 to help support mums as they face the challenges and struggles that parenting often involves, particularly when getting started for the first time. To help ease your transition into parenthood, I aim to offer supportive, holistic approaches and insights for mums of babies aged mainly from 4 weeks to 10 months old. In each episode, you'll hear insights from experts and other mums to help you become the most confident parent you can. Let's do this together. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. Please contact a medical practitioner if you are concerned or have any medical issues. Now, let's meet Emily and get on to the interview. Hi Emily, and welcome to First Time Mums Chat. I'm delighted to have you here today, and I'm looking forward to hearing about how you help mums and your journey into motherhood.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here to share everything that I've gone through. So to start off, I'm a theta healing practitioner and instructor, and I've been in this spiritual journey for quite a long time. Then I got pregnant with my daughter and I thought, okay, I got this in the bag. I'm spiritual, I'm doing the inner work. Then my daughter came and I got hit with reality of I have a lot more work to do. And I went down into postpartum depression. I didn't like being a mom. I didn't enjoy it at all. And through that, I realized that, one, I'm not the only one who is going through this. For moms, it is a huge initiation process, a huge spiritual awakening that happens the moment you become a mom, because you're faced with everything that you've been wanting to avoid and your child is mirroring that to you. So I shifted my business into helping more moms find the confidence, the power within them to parent from their intuition, to heal themselves, to be cycle breakers, and to raise these new earth children with the freedom and the liberation and free from generational trauma. And so that's where I am today.
Wow, so you know exactly what it's like. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you sharing your story. You mentioned bringing babies into the US. Can you just tell me a little bit more about that? Because I was intrigued when you said that.
Yeah, so right now they're called New Earth children. There's different terms that are being used. There's rainbow children, indigo children. What it is that the children coming into the world right now are at a much higher vibration energetically than past generations. So we're shifting into a higher level of consciousness on a global scale. So the children coming in now, they're so connected to their intuition, to source energy, God, creator, whatever you want to call it, that their requirements are going to be very different than past generations. What used to work for past generations are not going to work for them. Take my daughter. She wakes up at the tiniest little sound that I make, the tiniest little movement. And my mom and my husband's mom would tell me all the time, yeah, we used to vacuum underneath the bed for you guys and you'd never wake up. But my daughter and a lot of kids now are so connected and so hypersensitive to everything happening around them that they may have trouble sleeping more than past generations. They may be labeled as having more ADHD or ADD. They may be experiencing more colicky symptoms, more temper tantrums. But these children are so special because they are going to be leading us into this next generation of greater intuition, trust within ourselves, more liberation. So, as parents, as moms, we need to do everything possible that is going to be different than past generations to support them as they grow up and become leaders of tomorrow.
You've given me food for thought there, because I look after kids. I pick up some kids from school, and it's interesting you say that, because I've noticed that particularly one of them is very intuitive to her needs. She knows exactly what she needs, but she finds it hard to express what she needs. She's not autistic or she doesn't have ADHD. It's just that she's so in tune with her own emotions that I think sometimes she finds it hard to express that, whereas her younger brother is completely the opposite. He chatters constantly. He's a real chatterbox. So it's interesting that you say that, because I think when I was growing up, I think I was probably more intuitive than a lot of kids, but I wasn't so much in tune with my own emotions. And I think it's interesting that you say that with these kids today. It's never occurred to me, but watching and observing kids today, I can actually see what you're talking about. They are so much more in tune with what's going on around them. And maybe that's why people label them with ADHD or label them with autism.
Yeah, I agree with you, because we're not used to that kind of energy, that kind of behavior, that kind of tuned in abilities that these kids have. And so we consider them outside the norm. So they're autistic or they have ADHD. And really, it's almost as if their energy is higher than their body's able to hold on to. So there's an imbalance there. So there's too much going on for them that it can feel overwhelming. So they might have those temper tantrums. They might act a different way. They might act in ways that we don't know how to, I don't want to say handle, don't know how to process, don't know how to allow. So they are labeled. They're just so tuned in. And sometimes a lot of these new earth children also feel like they don't belong here, because they would much rather be back up in that beautiful light and love, in that place where there is no limitation. There is none of this heavy energy that is in this third plane experience for them. So they can just show up different ways than past generations have. And it's our job as moms to be able to support them.
How do we support them? What is the key to supporting these kids? As you say, they're the next generation. They're going to be ruling the world when we're all gone.
The most important thing for us to do is to shift our focus on the physical and work more on the energetics. So because these little beings are so tuned in and tapped in and turned on, they're going to hold on to energy a lot more than previous generations have, or they're going to be more aware that they are holding on to stuff. So it's working on the energetic. So for my daughter, every single morning, I balance her chakra system and I tune in to see, okay, what does she need in order to feel safe here, in order to feel supported, in order to feel loved? By tuning into her energy, I'll figure out, okay, maybe today she needs to ground herself. She's feeling a little bit too up there in those other planes. She needs to come back down and feel grounded. So I'll take her outside barefoot, put her in the grass and just ground her. Or I'll put her in a red outfit just to balance that root chakra. Another thing I do for her is before we go out anywhere, I'll put an energetic bubble of light around her to protect her from the other energies that she can connect with. So our auric field, we're always connecting with other people, right? We're mingling, we're sharing information, but this can really be overstimulating for them. So I noticed that before I started doing this, she had terrible sleeps whenever guests would come over. because she was just holding on to everyone's energy and she just couldn't figure out a way to let it go. So now I protect her energy. In addition to, at the end of every night, I'll also remove any energetic cords and attachments she might have picked up throughout the day. That has allowed her to, again, come back to her own energy, to be able to process her own energy, to be able to navigate this third plane without the overwhelming stuff around her. So there's a couple of different things that I do, but then all moms can do as well. It's so simple to just send that protection to them, send that cleansing to them, send that balancing energy to them. By tuning into their energy more and to work more in the energetic field, you're going to support them in the best way possible.
I think it's interesting you said that, because I learned that a long time ago. I think it's been there for a long time for us to tune into that, but humans of the past have pushed it away. I've experienced exactly what you've said. You know, some people, when they're talking to me, they come really close and I just back off and I just say, you're in my space. Can you please move away? And they don't get it, what I'm trying to say to them. And so I just say, look, I just need to go away for a few minutes. I'll come back. I think they do it to intimidate. They're using that power to intimidate rather than for the best. Maybe that's what we're doing to kids. We're using our power as intimidating. I think that's giving them their space, whether it's spiritual, whether it's cleaning the chakras or whatever you're doing. I think it's so important that we give them that space. If they ask you to back off, you back off. You don't keep pushing. You just say, okay, I understand, but I am here for you. I think a lot of mums don't connect to that energy themselves. And because they're not connecting to that energy, they're finding it hard to be in tune with their kids because they haven't experienced it.
And think about when we have our kids, and especially as a first-time mom, right? You're so excited about this beautiful little being you brought into the world. And what happens? You have family, you have friends that come over. Oh, can I hold the baby? You're like, yeah, sure, hold the baby. Well, what about if that child didn't want to be held by that person? I remember when I was growing up, at the end of every birthday party, my parents would say, go around and hug everybody who came to your party and that gave you a gift. And there were some people that I felt intuitively, I don't want to give that person a hug. There's something about their energy. It's just not right. We had to do that because my parents, past generations, may not have known that, well, now you're teaching your child to disregard their own intuition to listen to their parent. Now you're ignoring the signs and symptoms that your child is saying, hey, there's something not right here. And so what happens? They end up suppressing that intuition because I have to please my parents. Now they end up with the I need to be a good girl or a good boy belief in order to receive love from their parents. Maybe this was you too, but I remember my parents would tell me there's no such thing as ghosts. When I would tell them, like, oh, I see a little spirit or something. So us as parents, we also need to come back to, especially moms, come back to our own intuition, our own ability to parent and connect with our child. I actually created a course called the Sacred Bond course because there is such a gap in that need right now as moms to have that sacred bond with their child. And take a look around. Everything in society is separating mom and child. The fact that we have Google now and we can Google, oh, my child is making this noise. What does that mean? Every single time we do that, we are suppressing our own intuition of what we know is right for our child. We follow, okay, they need to be awake at this time. They need a sound machine to sleep. They need blackout curtains. They need all of these things. They need a swaddle. They need to be on their own in a bed by themselves in a different room. All of these things are creating that separation between mom and child. So again, this ties into physical manifestations of wetting the bed for if they're separated, right? To autism, to ADHD. There's so much there that's creating a separation between mom and child. When if mom can come back to that sacred bond with their child, their own intuition, they can do this work. They can support their new birth child in the highest and best way. They can see their child and be like, their aura needs to be cleansed. Or, oh, they're holding on to energy from this person. Let's just remove that. Oh, I instilled trauma into my child because I couldn't handle my own stuff. Let me just remove that. This is the work that I teach moms. My clients, I have some where she lowered her child's fever in under 10 minutes because she was able to do this work, to trust her intuition, to notice there's something going on with my child. Let's just heal her, right? I have another client who was able to remove the shock and trauma from her child having a seizure at night from herself and her child. So her child didn't hold on to that and continue to manifest it, but just released it, and they slept better. So there's so many things, there's so many different practices you can do, but the primary thing is to connect back with yourself and your intuition to do that healing work on yourself as a mom. And that helps to strengthen that bond with your child to support them in the best way.
I agree with that 100% because we're not all perfect by any manner of means. I try to do that in my childcare when I'm working with kids. I try and do exactly that. If I feel that there's something not quite right, or if they're upset or anything, I'll just let them process it and I'll just let them get on with it. And I'll just back off and I'll go and do something different, and I'll say I'll come back when you're ready, or just let me know. And if they're not ready, I'll just let them be to deregulate and process that. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go back to something you also said about ghosts. You said that we were always brought up not to believe in ghosts. And that also brings up a thing about imaginary friends, because parents of my generation, when I was growing up, used to say, oh, you don't have imaginary friends and there's no ghosts. I did see ghosts when I was a child, and I know they existed. Now, some of them were scary ghosts, some of them weren't. And even today, I'll go into a room, and if I don't like the sense of that, I don't see a ghost necessarily, but I just feel cold in one particular area of the house, or I just don't feel comfortable. You just feel this is not right. This is not the right place for me. I've got to leave here. I've got to move away from here. And I've experienced that, not so much in my adult life, but definitely in my childhood I did.
And majority of kids, if not all children, can see these spirits and these ghosts because, again, they're so intuitive. They're not muddled up with all the beliefs, the indoctrinations, the corruption from childhood, our belief system, society. They're so pure that they can see things past this physical reality. The only problem is that if parents, as us, if we start to tell our children there's no such thing as ghosts or spirits or imaginary friends, again, you are suppressing that beautiful, powerful intuition that we're all searching for now as adults. Because the moment we can tune into our intuition, that's the moment we know what's right for us. That's the moment we release the people-pleasing complex. That's the moment we can really manifest the reality we want. So we're all, as adults, trying to come back to this place. So what we can do now is support our children to not have to do that deep work that us as adults are doing. Because the first 0 to 7 years of a child's life is when they're in that theta brainwave state, when their mind is so malleable that all they're doing is absorbing things of beliefs of what's right and what's wrong, what's going to keep them safe. And if we know that as parents, then we can make sure that we are saying things, we are acting in certain ways that are going to support the best beliefs possible for them. When I say best beliefs, I mean ones that are empowering and freeing and liberating, and also going to allow them to trust their intuition. Because if we don't suppress that, they can be going well into adulthood, being able to actually see the spirits and the ghosts that are still present around us, but that we as adults have kind of tuned out because we've been told that's not a normal thing, that's not going to allow us to be accepted, loved, good enough, worthy, whatever it may be. So if we can really ensure that we are instilling them with the beliefs of empowerment and to trust their intuition, then they're going to grow up as amazing leaders for this new earth.
And they're also going to be empowered to believe that the people that they're seeing are guides. They might be guides helping them
for sure.
to go through life and advising them. And I think if a little child says to you, I've got a little friend playing with me, or somebody standing next to me, if they're not scared about it and they're enthusiastic about it, encourage it and ask them to tell you about it.
There's also something very important to know, and that is for children, because they are so pure, because again, they're not muddled up with all the belief systems, the trauma, everything like that. They also have such a bright and light aura. So they can actually, not on purpose at all, but they're very attractive to those spirits who may not have the greatest intentions. They're not supposed to be here, because these spirits can confuse these beautiful light beings as the light of creation, the light of where they're trying to go to. So they can attach on to kids. And I remember doing a healing for myself where I had apparently picked up a spirit at the age of 10, and it was still there with me until about the age of
Wow.
23. And only once I'd done the healing was I able to become aware this spirit has been there this whole time. And it wasn't a bad spirit. It thought it was helping me, but it wasn't. I outgrown it. I didn't need it anymore, but it was there for protection. So this is why the cleansing of the aura, the releasing of spirits, if you do notice it on your child, is so important. But as a mom, you can only do that if you trust your intuition. Because if you don't believe that you could see a spirit attached to your child, how are you going to remove it? If you don't believe that it is possible for you to heal your child energetically and lower their fever in 10 minutes, how are you going to do it? All of this is possible. And as moms, because we have that sacred bond with our child, we are such powerful beings. The moment we become a mom, I swear we become super mom. We can do all of this stuff because we have the ability to. We come back to our divine feminine energy and we have that so strong intuition. But again, we have to shut out the outside world telling us all these different things to separate us from our intuition, to have us parent through fear. Because that's what's happening now. We're parenting through our fear, we're parenting through our own pain of past generations. We're not parenting through love, presence, and our intuition. If we can do that, then we can help these newer children to be so intuitive, to be connecting with different galaxies, to be helping these spirits transition into the light, to be able to do energy work on themselves or others, just to be able to live their best life.
Yeah, you said yourself that you'd gone through postnatal depression and you'd gone down that rabbit hole and you managed to pull yourself through, which I think is great. There's a lot of mums out there who suffer from, as a mum who's going through that and noticing other mums like that, what tip would you give them to support them to pull themselves up and to encourage them?
Yeah, so with my one-on-one mentoring and the Sacred Bond course, one of the questions that I always ask moms, and this is always a triggering question, so any mom who's listening, just prepare yourself. Why are you manifesting this? Why are you wanting postpartum depression? Because subconsciously, you are creating this for a reason. It is serving you in some way. And again, this may be hard to hear when you're in the thick of it because it's just not enjoyable. But everything in your reality, you are the creator of. You chose this. So why did you choose this? For myself, going through it, I was really holding on to that old version of me prior to having my daughter. And I struggled with releasing control and totally being in my feminine energy because I loved being the masculine. I loved doing the business stuff and being able to work out whenever I wanted and having that control, that freedom. And because I was all taken away, I felt this lack of control. But what I noticed when I was in that lack of control and when I started to experience the sadness, the anxiety, the anger, is that people around me started to give me more attention. They started to take care of me more. So subconsciously, I was holding on to the postpartum depression because I felt loved there. That was a way for me to receive love. So the work I do as a theta healer in my courses, my one-on-one mentoring, is we dive deep into the subconscious to do that inner work so you can manifest the reality of enjoying motherhood, so you can be that cycle breaker for your child. Because until you identify why it's serving you to have postpartum depression or anger or anxiety or whatever it may be, you're going to continue to manifest it because it's serving you. It was serving me. I was receiving love from all my family. I was receiving help. I got to sleep in a bit more because people felt bad for me.
Yeah.
It's hard to admit it to yourself because you think, why would I ever want that? I remember admitting it to myself. I kind of felt embarrassed, like, oh my God, I'm manifesting this because I feel loved. I feel important. I feel worthy. But as soon as I could identify that, I then had the power to reprogram it, to reframe those beliefs. And I was able to start pulling myself out. I was able to realize, well, I can still be loved by my family and I don't need to experience this. And I started seeing all the ways that I was loved without that. I started releasing control and just surrendering. I started seeing my daughter as the mirror to me. And every time I was triggered, every time I wanted to go back to that space, I started asking myself, okay, what is she trying to teach me here?
Interesting.
And then it allowed me to start doing more of that inner work to the point where I no longer had it. It just no longer served me to have it. And so now it served me to have a reality where I trusted my intuition with her, where I got to enjoy my time with her, where I got to create my business as well as having her. And now that shifted in the way it was of the dynamic of it. So really start asking yourself how it's serving you to have it, and that will start to set you free from
And
needing
how
it.
old is your daughter now?
She is 10 months in
Wow,
3 days.
the reason I asked that is because she's mirroring you now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when she gets older, if you see things in hers that you were going through as well, or you went through. I think that's very interesting that she's mirroring you now.
A lot of the time, everybody's a mirror to us. So every time someone triggers us, they are mirroring to us exactly what we need to know. So I know I'm going to probably trigger her at some point. And that's a thing. I can now teach her that I'm your mirror. What's going on within you? What are you feeling? What are you believing? Empowering her to start doing this work on herself from an early age. So she doesn't suppress it, ignore it. She doesn't hold on to stagnant energy as us adults do, and she can start processing and releasing that and being her own healer.
I think that's very powerful. I do think the governments are trying to tell us what to do, and that's probably why the children today are who they are.
The government's agenda is to instill fear in us. It's time for us to choose love, to choose our own power. And when we can do that, we can raise our kids in the way that we feel best. We can support them in the way that's going to help them the most. We can also shift the vibration of the collective the more we choose love and not the fear that they want us to.
Look back to the 1960s when love was freedom, love was everything.
You are so powerful as a mom, and you have the ability to transcend anything that you were going through. Find that strength within you, do the inner work, and you can truly enjoy motherhood and the experience, the spiritual awakening that you chose to experience upon having a child.
Wow. And if somebody wanted to find out about you, how would they go about doing that? Because you've shared so many wonderful tips, and I just want mums to know how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram. That's primarily where I hang out, and my handle is Theta, THETA, with Emily. And you can send me a DM there. I have more tips there. I have links for all my courses and programs and mentorships. That's primarily where I hang out. And then I also have a free course of helping moms and babies sleep better through energetics. I have a healing workshop for moms as well. So there's lots of freebies there for you.
I'll put all that into the show notes. And thank you, Emily, for sharing with me. I've really learned a lot from you, and you've enlightened me. So thank you for supporting all the first-time mums out there.
And thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, mums. You're amazing. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit the subscribe button, because in the next episode, I'm chatting with clinical psychologist and perinatal mental health specialist, Dr. Emily Miotto, about the trauma, grief and anxiety associated with going back to work after giving birth. The other thing I want you to do after listening to this episode is to get your Sleep Tips Quick Start Guide to help you establish a sleep routine that works and helps you feel less tired, less stressed, and have a happier, more contented little one who sleeps better. To get yours, visit mybabymassage.net/sleep now. That's mybabymassage.net/sleep now.